Hey everyone, welcome back to RSB One Stop. In our previous video, we have seen how to create a searchable drop-down list for the payment schedule template, which allow us to easily and quickly select suppliers from the payment schedule tab, without having to go back and forth to the master data tab. In this video, we will see the basic columns that are required in the payment schedule, and how to use the VLOOKUP formula to get relevant data from the master data tab for each supplier. As you can see, these are the basic columns that are required to prepare a payment schedule template. The columns are type, supplier name, invoice number, currency, tax code, net amount, tax amount, total, columns for applicable bank details, and lastly, an instruction column for any specific instructions from the supplier regarding making the payments. Now, let's make a table from the range and rename it as payment schedule data or anything you would prefer. Next, we will use the VLOOKUP formula to get the relevant details from the master data sheet into the respective columns in the Payment Schedule tab, using supplier name as the lookup value. Now, input equals then VL and press tab key to select VLOOKUP function, then type B2 to take supplier name as lookup value. Next, go to the master data sheet to select the columns range from supplier name to currency to get currency details. Then, press 5 for the index as the currency column is the fifth from the supplier name. Now either press 0 or false to get return values that matches supplier names exactly. Ignore the not applicable error as it is expected, as there is no lookup value in cell B2. Now, copy the formula from D2 to E2. You can find that the lookup value and table ranges have been changed as we haven't fixed them. So, always remember to fix the lookup value when you want to use the same reference to get values for multiple columns, just by changing index number. Let's now fix the lookup value and table range in order to use the references to get values for all other columns. We can also see the index number of the columns from where we want to get the data at the top right, indicating column numbers while dragging left to right. Now, let's change the index numbers rest of the cells to get data on respective columns. If you have observed, the lookup range is highlighting the entire column until the bottom. As we have selected the complete range from A to H instead of defining the range where the data actually is. This will have an impact on the performance of the formula if you are dealing with a large data set. So, we will define the actual range where the formula needs to search for the lookup values. Now, we will change lookup range from A to H to A2 to H27, which is the actual range of the available data that the formula needs to look for. Let's now make same changes on rest of the cells. Now the lookup range has been restricted to the range where these is data. As we have converted the data into a table, we will see how the range will get updated dynamically when new rows are added, and we'll also see how to use column named reference instead of regular range. As you can see now, the lookup range has been dynamically updated from H27 to H29 as we have added data in two new rows at the bottom. Now, let's have a look at how to use column-named references instead of range references. In our previous video, we gave a name to the table range to use in the future. Let's now use the same as a reference for the range, as it makes it easier to define the range without specifically referencing to cell addresses. We just need to provide the lookup column name and return column range, and as we mentioned earlier, we need to provide the index number of the columns from the lookup column to the particular return column to get data from that column. Here, we are using the column reference from supplier name to important instruction, which was earlier mentioned as A2 to H27 while giving range reference. Later, we are providing index numbers of the column to get relevant data. Finally, let's see how to handle the errors that might arise when there is no match with the reference cell or when the return value is blank, where we get a result of not applicable in the first scenario and 0 when the return value is blank. We will use the IFERROR function and will keep the entire VLOOKUP expression in it, and will specify to give blank when there is a not applicable error. The same applies to columns D, I, and J, as there will not be any blank values in the return columns unlike the instructions column. For the instructions column, we need to use a combination of the IFERROR and IF functions. We use the IF function to return a blank when the VLOOKUP expression returns 0 due to a blank value in the return column, and the IFERROR function to handle not applicable errors as usual. In both cases, the expression returns blank. That's all for this video. Hope you found this video useful. If you did, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.